Holy cats, we are back. This is Become a Bat, your only chronological look into Batman through the beginning, from the very start, Batman and Detective Comics.
At least it better be,
Yes,
as far as we know.
as far as we know. My name is Tom,
And I'm Mike.
and today we are going to do a special episode. 3 stories. We're going to do one of Detective, we're going to do one Batman, and we're going to do a World's Fair issue.
Yeah, which I think is only one of 2 or 3 issues of World's Fair Comics.
It's a very limited time promo comic, essentially. So today, let's start with the case of the missing link. So, how do I start with this? Okay, so this,
Where do you start with this issue?
yeah. All right, so this issue's kind of racist. Hopefully that,
I mean, it is racist.
yeah,
It definitely is, but I guess if you want to be like a good person, you could be like, "Oh, they didn't know." But it's definitely racist.
yeah. I think you could give Jerry Robinson like the benefit of, excuse me. I think you can give Bill Finger maybe the benefit of a doubt for
Yeah.
trying something, but
I'm sure that Bill Finger, when he wrote this, didn't care. But if he were to go back and read it when he was older, he would be super embarrassed by the fact that he wrote this.
maybe. But you know what? You could probably look at comics from exactly the same time and find something way worse.
Oh yeah, well, there's also like rampant sexism in comics at that time too. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
We could probably count the number of women in Batman up until this point on like one hand.
Yeah, 2,
Let's see.
maybe 3.
Selena, Julie,
Mm-hmm.
the woman
Who
who
gets her face put on the flower?
her yeah, I was thinking
Yeah,
the sister of the guy
yeah,
with no face, and then the woman who like looks like Julie in that episode, that issue.
yeah. The one from the Mad Monk one, the
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking
Dala.
about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what, like 4 or 5 women so far, and we're how many episodes
Yeah.
in?
Oh, and I think a woman gets murdered in the Clayface issue.
Yeah, you're right. The actress does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, back to that tangent. So there are some African tribesmen or African natives depicted in this issue, this story, in a very old timey kind of racist way.
Mm-hmm.
They call them pygmies, and I don't think these people were pygmies. According to Wikipedia, they were kind of like a smaller tribe. I mean, like physically smaller. They're like, often called midgets.
Mm-hmm.
In this issue, they're actually depicted kind of normal size. So
Yeah, there's a couple panels where they look small, but they're really inconsistent about it.
yeah, I'm going to chalk that up more to the art than what they were trying to depict.
Yeah. Well, they do that in all those issues.
Yeah.
When you have giants and stuff, that like the scale is never the same panel to panel.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get to the synopsis, which in the synopsis, I'm just trying to read what's on the page. So this is not an endorsement of it. And we'll give our final thoughts on the issue afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. So this is Batman number 2, story number 4, The Case of the Missing Link. Art by Bob Kane, Jerry Robinson, George Russos. Written by Bill Finger. Batman leaps onto a speeding train and makes his way down when he's shot at by an African tribesman with an arrow. Actually, was it an arrow or a spear?
I think it was an arrow.
Okay, with an arrow. Yeah.
Because he like ducked
Yeah.
first, right? Yeah.
After fighting a few, he suddenly drops flat on his stomach when the train approaches a low bridge, knocking the rest of his attackers off. He jumps into one of the train cars where he stumbles upon some other tribesmen trying to open a giant container, and another one is about to shoot an old white guy with an arrow. The archer turns his attention towards Batman, who stops the arrow with a suitcase. Batman throws the suitcase back at him and then throws him off the train. The old white guy thanks Batman and introduces himself. His name is Professor Drake, and he's been studying what he calls the missing link. Inside the giant box is a giant man. He explained that he's a sort of prehistoric man with a gland reaction that made him giant. Drake went to Africa after hearing rumors of the African tribesmen worshipping a giant as a god. Drake had recruited some help to have the giant captured, and then he massacred the worshippers.
Brutal.
Yeah. He took the giant to Gotham and was followed by some of the survivors. Drake explains that the giant is calm because he used some psychological methods to make the giant worship him. He calls the giant Goliath. Goliath views Batman as a friend. Batman plans on civilizing Goliath and then teaching him English.
Isn't it kind of messed up that he brainwashed this guy into worshiping him?
Yeah, it really is. News of the giant makes the paper. two circus owners named Hackett and Sneed think that the giant would make them a killing as an attraction. They make an offer in which he refuses. Drake later tells Batman of the two men, and Batman figures they're plotting something. He recruits Robin to guard Drake and Goliath. Drake is sleeping in his chair when Sneed and his men walk in. They shoot Drake in the head and plant a fake suicide note which bequeaths the giant to Hackett and Sneed. Robin is too late. He jumps in and attacks the mobsters. Goliath wakes up and tears through the box and lurches towards the mobsters. The gangsters get away, but before they get away, Goliath gets a good look at the face of a gangster named Grimes. Goliath checks on Drake and is distraught to find him dead. Robin reports to Bruce. He reads in the newspaper about Drake's suicide. Dick wants to report it that it wasn't a suicide, but Bruce tells him that he can't risk it since he'd have to reveal he's Robin. They decide to bide their time.
You know, it's kind of funny that he's like, no, you can't risk it because it'll reveal that you're Robin. Because there's so many moments where Robin says stuff in these comic books where he's like, hey, that's the person from earlier. And it's like, yeah, earlier you weren't Robin, idiot. Shut up. You're giving yourself away.
Yeah. All right. So Hackett and Sneed's plan works, and they make the giant a star attraction in their circus show. In the opening of the show, Goliath sees Grimes' familiar face, and he goes into a rage. He tears through the steel bars of his cage and grabs Grimes. He smashes on the side of a pole like a rag doll. In his rampage, he breaks open a lion cage. Batman and Robin run in and trap the lion in a net. Robin lands on top of an elephant and calms it down. Goliath picks up Robin and throws him high into the air. Robin uses his acrobatic skills and catches a trapeze and uses it to land onto a girder. Goliath climbs up and he traps Robin. Batman gets up there and he lassos up the giant. Goliath jerks himself and Batman falls off, still clutching the rope. He starts to pull Batman up when Robin draws out his trusty slingshot and nails Goliath's head. The giant and Batman both fall to the ground below. Batman catches a trapeze, but Goliath lands on his neck, breaking it, and dies. The next day, Bruce and Dick read the newspaper and find out that in his dying breath, Grimes confessed to being hired to fake Drake's suicide, which gets Hackett and Sneed arrested. The end.
Didn't Robin and Batman both catch a trapeze just randomly in this issue? Like within a couple pages of each other? The same trapeze, too, if I
It
recall.
probably was, or was one sitting next to each other or nearby, but yeah.
Poor Goliath. He did not live very long after he got to New York City.
I think overall this was a pretty crummy issue.
It just makes you feel bad when you're reading it about everything. There's nothing uplifting about this issue at all.
Yeah, Batman and Robin don't do anything good. They don't solve anything. There's no mystery they solve.
No, and then Batman's like, hey, Robin, guard this guy.
Yeah.
The guy just gets shot in the head.
Robin fails to save the guy, but he was a jerk anyway. But I mean,
still,
he doesn't deserve to get shot in the head like that.
No, and then the Goliath ends up dying anyways, and it's pretty much Robin's fault. Way to go, Robin.
I don't think that was Robin's fault. There's definitely still the gangster's fault.
Yeah, but I mean, he did hit him with the sling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does.
Thing,
Hit him with the
so,
sling.
like, he is kind of a direct.
It was to save Batman. The only thing they do is basically stop the animals from hurting and circus goers.
Yeah.
That's like the only one good thing they could do.
True.
It's a whole issue of failure.
It really is. They should have called it the case of Batman and Robin's failure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, thoughts besides what we just said right there?
I mean, that's kind of it. I do think maybe they could have written it. I mean, I know this is a review of the issue, and I think it's kind of tacky usually to be like, well, this is what I would have done if I were written this, but
yeah,
to do it anyway, I had written it. I probably would have done something where Goliath got away, like he just kind of became like an urban legend.
Yeah.
Like
Solomon Grundy.
Like Solomon Grundy. Yeah. They kind of take that. He takes that role kind of later down the line.
Yeah. I like that because their giants are a recurring thing so far in these early Batman stories. I'm glad that they find a giant that can become a permanent fixture later on in Batman's career. Although, wasn't Solomon Grundy originally like a Wonder Woman villain or something?
I think he's a Superman.
Is a Superman?
Yeah, but I think he's actually Superman, but he eventually makes his way to Gotham. He's like Deathstroke in that Deathstroke, he was a Teen Titans villain, but he's also part of the Batman Rogues Gallery.
I like that they share villains, and I like when villains migrate from one character to another.
Yeah, like the Kingpin, Spider-Man, and Daredevil.
Frank Miller stole him. Frank Miller made a point of trying to steal every villain he possibly could from Spider-Man to give to Daredevil.
That's funny.
Yeah. I got some thoughts here too. So there's a lot of problematic stuff in this issue. I mean, in general, there's problematic stuff in early comic books and early movies and everything because they weren't quite sure what what the envelope was and how far they could push things, or whether they were saying the wrong thing or not at the time. But by today's standards, it's not okay. And not only do they have racist stereotypes and use slurs, but they go as far as to say that the Goliath, the giant white gorilla man, was worshipped as a god, which is ugh. And then, I can make a list of everything that's not okay in this issue, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that racism's ugly and I don't approve of it. And in the 1940s, the type of characterization was still considered kind of questionable and disgusting, but, like this is kids read this stuff. I don't know that kids would really read that and be like, that's bad.
I think overall, you can in this time era, you can easily find something that's depicted a lot worse.
You can. That doesn't excuse it, but
No,
you
not
totally could.
I think even like within Action Comics and Detective and like the backup stories that we're not covering, I'm sure you could find something pretty bad.
Definitely.
And also kind of really just glaze over the fact that Professor Drake's like basically had the worshippers just massacred.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Batman didn't give a shit. Ugh,
I know.
not great. Anyway,
These panels here.
yeah, we have panels to do.
I only picked one panel from this one. It was kind of hard to find panels. I did like one of the ones that you picked because I just thought it was kind of comical how
Mhm.
he kills that guy and the way that it's described. But
Yeah.
I picked this cool panel where Batman's running across the top of a train. I almost picked the one where he ducks and then the two guys get taken out by the bridge because I feel like both the running along the top of a train and the ducking when a bridge comes by, those are like action movie cliches.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
You got an action scene on a train.
Yeah, you can
That's gonna happen.
duking it out with someone,
Yeah.
duck, they get taken out by the bridge.
Speed. It happens
Yeah.
speed.
Exactly. It's such a
Yeah.
cliche, but it's cool to see it in comics. It means you can tell, even though I don't like this issue, you can tell that they're taking influence from action movies and adventure movies, like, and they're trying to make a cinematic that just kind of failed.
Yeah, I don't know what action movie this might have taken from.
Even like the silent action movies had just train sequences like
Oh
that.
yeah.
So
I'm
it
just
could be anything.
I don't know what if there's a specific moment in like a
Probably.
at the
Yeah.
time.
Like those silent villain movies, where
Yeah.
it's just playing the piano music in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you
Uh,
pick?
So yeah, the two panels I picked here is the one where Goliath picks up Goliath picks up Grimes, two G's. And he like grabs him by like the thigh and just smashes him on the side of a pole.
Yeah.
One of the girders actually, yeah. Oof.
Like a baseball bat.
Yeah, just oof. And then
It
he's
says that he's dashed against a pole with a sickening thud.
yeah, and then the other one, he still like got him in his hand and he's just like tearing apart the lion cage, letting the lions out, and they're just like so happy to be out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those circuses back then were pretty shitty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if there's circuses now, they're probably not all that much better when it comes to
Yeah.
like dealing with animals properly.
Rest in peace, Grimes. Rest in peace, Goliath.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna get to the World's Fair number 2. All right, thanks for getting through that. And we're back. We're gonna do the New York World's Fair Comics number 2.
Yeah, and it is called World's Fair Comics number 2 when you look it up online, but on the cover it's just New York World's Fair Comics, the 1940 issue.
Yeah, so they probably might have done one before this.
Yeah. This is a pretty big comic book. It's almost 100 pages long, and it's like there's like 2 ads in there for the World's Fair, and that's it. The rest of it is just stories.
Well, the whole thing is an ad for the World's Fair.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, every single one of the stories is like the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this character is going to the World's Fair,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. It's fun to read because it's like a slice of life, like outside of the normal for each of these heroes. But it's got a Batman and Robin story, Sandman, Slam Bradley, Superman, Hourman. So it's cool. I might go back and read more of these. But we're just going to cover the Batman story. So if you guys want to know about the other characters, you'll have to look it up online. You can look it up on DC Infinite, or you can just Google it and read it. This is World's Fair number 2. Batman and Robin visit the 1940s World's Fair from January 3rd, 1940 Written by Bob Kane, Bill Finger, and Gardner Fox. Art by Bob Kane and George Russos. The cover, real simple. It's like this kind of like faded orange. And it is the first time we ever see Superman, Batman, and Robin depicted together. Even though they're not in the same story, they're in the same comic book for the first time ever. So that does make this kind of monumental. It's almost like a recreation of the cover of Batman, where you've got Batman and Robin walking towards you, like the one where Robin's bursting through the drum. There's just no drum in this one. And then you got Superman standing right on the other side of Robin, waving at you, the reader.
Yeah, they're definitely making them like they're in a spotlight.
Yeah, it's almost like they're breaking the fourth wall because they're like, "Hey, kids, read this World's Fair comic."
Batman and Superman together in one comic. Can you imagine?
I would have lost my crap at 1940 if
Yeah.
I saw this on the stands, and I was already a fan of both of them. Every single one of these characters is drawn really well on this cover. I love it. It's like the perfect time to do this because Superman's costume is finally the classic version. Like his symbol's not quite what people envision, but it's much better than like what it looked like in the original Superman comics.
Yeah, the
And
shield's a little small, but
yeah,
it still
it looks really
very
good.
close to
Yeah, none of
okay.
them look funky. They all look totally accurate. In Batman, like he's got his scallops on his gloves. Like
Mhm.
this is just like the kind of the perfect golden age versions of these heroes. Well, let's get into the synopsis. So Bruce and Dick are at the World's Fair. The two of them are having a good old time wandering around and checking out the attractions. They head over to check out the City of Tomorrow, a large-scale miniature city on display that showcases all kinds of futuristic concepts in architecture. They laugh about how much fun they're having, and Bruce says that nothing is going to stop them from having a good time. Halfway across town, though, the West River Bridge suddenly melts and begins to fall into the river. Panic breaks out as cars and pedestrians are pulled down with it. Luckily, Bruce and Dick just so happen to venture into an exhibit about radios right after they left the City of Tomorrow. As they walk past one of the radios on display, an emergency broadcast comes over the air. The announcer proceeds to describe the incident at the West River Bridge. Bruce and Dick know that they must leave the fair and go investigate. Bruce tells Dick to go scout out the bridge while he visits Commissioner Gordon as, quote unquote, Bruce Wayne, wastrel playboy. Do you know what wastrel means?
No, I have no idea.
It's like a lazy waste of space.
Wow.
They're really playing up the whole fact that Bruce Wayne is lazy.
They're doing a little too thick there.
Yeah. Bruce does just what he said he would. He pays Gordon a visit. The two make small talk until Bruce is able to steer the conversation in the direction that he wants. He manages to get Gordon talking about the bridge incident, but just then a man breaks into the office. He says that his name is Travers, of Travers Engineering. He hands Gordon a piece of paper on which is scribbled both a confession and a threat. The writer of the letter takes credit for the West River Bridge and promises to blow up / melt Travers' newly constructed bridge unless he coughs up $300,000. Travers is distraught. But ever optimistic Gordon thinks that it's just a scam. He tells Travers to ignore it. Bruce wonders to himself if Gordon is really that clueless or if he suspects something after all, regardless of what he said to Travers. Meanwhile, young Dick Grayson is at the bridge inspecting the chaos. He sees a young woman being pursued by two men in suits. Robin mode kicks in and he launches himself after one of the men who is just about to slap the woman. He tackles the man to the ground. Then the other man comes after him. He kicks him in the shin and then punches both of the men in the face. Dick looks around for the woman, but it seems that she fled during the fight. The men both get up off the ground and chastise Dick for fighting with them and letting her escape. They then tell him that they are detectives and he just prevented them from taking her in.
Are they really detectives?
Apparently not, but we'll see. At first, Dick feels sorry. Then, the more he thinks about it, the more he thinks that there's something fishy about those men. They didn't talk or act like real detectives. When he gets home, he tells Bruce the whole story. But since they don't have any hard evidence to link those men to the bridge incident, they just have to sit tight and wait for the next incident to happen. 2 days later, Travers' newly constructed bridge falls apart, just as was described in the threatening letter. Then, the very next morning in the early edition, another threatening letter is published. This time the letter was sent to a Flavin construction company, with the threat being leveled against one of their bridges. The price demanded by the letter is a cool $500,000.
I wonder what that would be in today's money.
A lot. You should look it up when we're done.
Okay.
Batman and Robin head straight to the bridge to investigate. They spot some seedy-looking thugs, so Robin decides to climb the scaffolding to the highest point of the bridge, while Batman takes a more head-on approach. He grabs one of the men and lifts him up above his head with one hand, and throws him like a baseball into a small group of thugs, bowling them over backwards. That was a pretty cool scene. As Robin surveys from above, he spots two armed men hanging out at the top of the bridge with their sights set on Batman. He swings down from his vantage point and knocks them both to the asphalt, where Batman greets one of them with a gravity-assisted knuckle sandwich. The other man gets up shakily from where he landed and pulls a hidden gun on Batman. Robin isn't having it, though. He drops from the sky onto the man. Then as soon as the man gets back to his feet, bam, he hauls off and slugs him in the mouth, putting him back down for good. With the men all disposed of, Batman and Robin finish searching the bridge and run across a small mechanical box of some kind. While staring at it and trying to determine the box's origin, the woman from earlier whom Robin saved from the fake detectives walks up behind them and proceeds to tell them everything about the box. Apparently the box is called a receiver, and it was created by her uncle, Dr. Hugo Vrikel.
They really don't have too many names.
No, they really like that Dr. Hugo thing. And it emits a short-wave burst of energy that can decompose the elements that make up steel. So I guess technically the bridges aren't melting, they're being decomposed. She then tells Batman that her uncle planned to use the box to blackmail steel construction companies into paying him large sums of money. Batman asks her what her uncle plans to do next, to which she promptly replies, he's going to break open the state prison and free some dangerous prisoners for his evil organization that he plans. Then he plans to destroy the half-finished Monarch building. The dynamic duo head for their Batplane and take off for the state prison, where a breakout is already in progress. Someone is using the receiver to melt the prison bars and free all of the prisoners, as well as disintegrate all the guards' guns. Luckily, Batman and Robin were close by, so they're able to fly over the prison and release a heavy dose of choking gas onto all of the escaped prisoners below. They land the plane temporarily, then, utilizing some creativity and a flagpole, they knock out all of the men and tie them to a light post.
It's very convenient that flag was just sitting there.
I know, they just pick it up and smack all the guys at the same time.
Especially in a prison setting where you figure they would want to control something like that.
Right, no weapons, but there's a flagpole.
Yeah.
Yeah. With no time to waste, the Caped Crusaders take off for the Monarch building. They immediately spot the men on the top floor, so they set the Batplane to hover. Sorry, I still don't understand how a plane can hover. Like, I understand helicopters hovering, but how does a Batplane hover?
I think it's still the Bat Gyro, but I think they decided to just call it the Bat Plane after a while.
It doesn't have rotors, though. Like,
I don't know. Yeah. It's you know what? This is about a guy who dresses up as a bat and
I
beats
know.
up mentally ill people.
Right, and giants. Anywho, they set the Batplane to hover, then descend down into the men in an aerial assault. One of the men tries to flee across some exposed high steel beams with the receiver. Robin gives chase, but out of nowhere, the man hurls the receiver at Robin, causing him to slip and fall. Batman witnesses the whole thing, and in an act of desperation, he jumps and reaches for a rope. He swings wide and just barely catches Robin as he begins to plummet. His swing arcs high, and he deposits Robin onto a steel girder. Then he makes his way angrily towards the two men who almost ended his partner's life. He knocks one of them out with his fists, while Robin picks off the other with his sling. Once more, the dynamic duo board the Batplane. This time they head for the home of Dr. Hugo Vrikel. Batman doesn't even give the doctor time to finish his evil monologue. He just throws a hard left hook, knocking Vrikel into a nearby machine.
Ow.
Yeah. Vrikel decrees that he will never be taken alive. Oh, I guess he says he'll never be taken to jail. Then he turns around suddenly and thrusts his hand into an exposed wire, electrocuting himself to death. While the two vigilantes stand over Dr. Vrikel's corpse, Batman exclaims that, well, he saved the state a job.
So cold.
I know, it's very like early Golden Age Batman.
Yeah.
The very next day, Bruce and Dick head back to the World's Fair. Hopefully this time not to be interrupted. Bruce jokes about how it wasn't much of an interruption anyways, just a minor disturbance. Nothing much really. The end.
You know, it's got to take somebody to do all this and be like, well, whatever. I'm just going to the fair after witnessing a man die.
I know, he's like, oh, no big deal. That was nothing.
The 1940 World's Fair only comes once a 1940. So you better make the best of it.
Right, get all your murder and stuff out of the way before you go to the fair so you don't get interrupted.
What'd you think of this one?
I thought it was really interesting. It was a fun read all the way through. It was definitely a little weird because like they were barely Batman and Robin for most of the story,
Mhm.
but I still enjoyed it. I had fun with it.
It's a typical superhero story.
Yeah.
The villain reminded me of one of those classic comic book villains that would have made way more money just patenting his invention.
Right, rather than trying to be the mastermind.
Yeah, like something that can just dissolve steel. Like, surely there's plenty of industrial uses for that. That would have made him
So much money.
obscene amounts of money.
Yeah.
He didn't have to just immediately go to crime, but
He
that's
also
what he did.
he also seems like the kind of character who would not even be a villain, who would just be like a scientist who created this invention, and then someone like the Joker goes and kills him and takes the invention and uses
Yeah,
it
like
to cause chaos.
that's exactly what Hugo Strange did in his debut.
Yeah.
He didn't create the machine to make the fog. He just stole the scientist's idea.
Yep.
Yeah, overall, it's a decent one, but there's not much to it. It's a promo for the World's Fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's barely a promo for the World's Fair. They're in the World's Fair for like a couple panels in the beginning of it, and they drop a couple references to like like things you can check out when you're there, and then
Yeah.
immediately they leave, and then they go back.
It's kind of just as much a promo for Batman, like for National Comics or DC as they
Yeah.
were known back then, as it is for the World's Fair, because I'm sure they probably sold it at a very cheap amount, and then
Well, apparently they were asking like 50 cents for it at the World's Fair, and normally comics were selling for like 10 cents. So they didn't sell that many.
okay.
And the people who had agreed to let Sheldy Moldoff and like DC Comics make this comic were pissed
Hmm.
because they ended up having to put stickers over the cover price that said 10 cents. So there's barely any copies of this book that exist anymore. But if you have the copies that say 10 cents, they're actually worth more than the copies that say 50 cents.
That's nuts. I bet they're worth more than $500,000.
They're probably worth a ton of money. Yeah.
Okay, so I did look up $500,000 in 1940 money, what the inflation is.
How much is it now?
Today it would be $10,268,000.
Who had that kind of money back then?
Probably the Rockefellers. That would have been chump change for them.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
not for this guy,
they
though.
could have made it, but they didn't. But still, he would have made so much more than $10 million.
It's crazy to think that people actually had that kind of money even back then.
Well, you know how the concept of philanthropy came about, right?
What? How?
So Rockefeller, he made such an obscene amount of money that he realized, like, if they knew how much money I really had, that they would, like, basically murder me. So he basically came up with the idea of just spending a tiny amount of his money to spread goodwill so that he would look good.
Mm.
It still happens today.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
And sometimes it's a tax write-off too.
Yeah, don't donate money to the stores when you go to like check out. No, like, give 10 cents for the orphans. Don't do that.
It's just a tax write-off.
That's a tax write off for them.
Yeah.
You want to do that? Go directly to
Go
the
give it to
organization.
orphans yourself.
Yes. So, tell me about. Tell me about your panels. I only picked one panel, but I think yours just kind of also overlap with some of the ones I would have picked.
Yeah, we picked a couple of the same ones actually. We both picked the panel with Dr. Rekill lying on the ground dead and Robin going, "He electrocuted himself." And Batman being like, "Well, he saved his date the job."
Yeah, that one.
So dark. I love when Batman says that kind of stuff.
Yeah, also reminds me of is the TV version of Batman: Return of the Joker. The
Yeah.
way Joker dies in that one,
Yeah.
which actually is a lot more brutal than the uncut PG-13 version.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh my, way more painful.
I got a one where I just picked this one because I thought it was funny, like the way that it's phrased. Because it's Robin decking some guy in the face and going, "You must be tired. Lie down." But then also the caption box says, "The Wonder Boy lands a wonder punch." And then there's this panel of Batman and Robin running together. I just thought it was a cool looking image. I
Yeah.
always like images with Batman and Robin side by side in motion, just doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then it says something like Batman and Robin leap into action once more. I thought that was cool. Oh yeah. So this is a really cool shot of Batman swinging on his rope, silhouetted by what looks like a red full moon. Maybe it's just
I think it's just like a
stylized. circle.
stylized, yeah.
But anyways, it just says grasping the rope, the Batman swings forward. It's just drawn really well.
Most of this issue took place during the day, huh?
Yeah. But one of the
Oh.
things I really like about this picture specifically is that if you look at like the really old Batman comics, I know these are really old too, but like the older ones, they tend to draw a lot of like vertical lines on his gauntlets and on his boots.
Hmm.
I don't know why they do that, but they haven't done it in a while. And then they're doing it again in this issue on both Robin's and on Batman's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make them look ridged or something.
Yep. And then this is the top panel. Did you put that in here?
Yeah. So the one I picked, just more for the phrasing.
Yeah.
So it was after Dick Grayson had attacked the two guys, and one of them He's on the ground and goes, "We're dicks, you brat." Like, yeah, he's saying of detectives, but it's just funny to hear somebody call himself a dick.
Yeah, it's like the narcotics, that's dope. Like,
Yes.
it's just
Yeah,
funny when
that
they
reminded me of that.
but yeah,
But, yeah. All right, so I guess that's, that for the World's Fair.
yeah.
When we get back from the second break, we are gonna go talk about Detective Comics number 46. Be there. We return for the final issue of this episode, Detective Comics number 46, Professor Strange's Fear Dust. Art by Bobby Kane, Jerry Robinson, and George Roussos. Written by Bill Finger.
Yeah. You notice what's going on this cover?
See, Robin's on the guy's shoulders. Oh, I recognize that guy's face. I forget his name. It was just last week. We were just talking about it.
Yeah. But also, what's happening to that guy?
Oh, the hat and the guns.
The freaking hat and the gun thing. God. It's happened like 12 or 13 times so
It's
far.
a fun visual. It's a fun visual flair.
It is. I just love seeing it now because I'm just like, oh, there it is once more.
Yep.
Yeah, this cover is so typical too. Batman's just dagging a guy in the face. Robin's landing on someone's shoulders. Nothing we haven't seen a million times. It is really well made cover, but
It's a typical day in
Yeah,
life, Batman and Robin.
so many Batman covers that just have this exact same thing going on in just very different places.
All right, so we'll go on to the synopsis. It's another day in the life of Batman. While out on patrol, he notices some gangsters raiding a warehouse. He beats the majority of them up with relative ease. He gets up to the last one and is shocked to find out he's a teenager, only 17 years old. The kid begs Batman for mercy, and Batman obliges. He bargains with Batman not to go to jail in exchange for some information about something big that his boss named Carstairs is planning with some professor.
What a stupid name.
That is a very weird name. Anyway,
Sorry, anybody listening. If your name is Carstairs, I apologize.
it sounds like a made-up name.
It really does.
Anyways, he gives Batman some pills that he's told would make him immune to the professor's stuff. In order to find out what's going on, he decides to let the gangsters wake up on their own and get away, as well as telling the kid to meet him here at midnight the next night. Batman leaves and the gangsters wake up and they're all confused. They get in their car and they drive to a house in the outskirts of town. Carstairs introduces them to the professor, the great Hugo Strange. Strange tells them that they are to conduct their plan at noon tomorrow. Noon the next day arrives and the gangsters stick up a bank. The gangsters pull out their guns and spray a strange gas from them. The guards defending the bank are suddenly overcome with fear. They drop their guns and the gangsters rob the place. The gangsters repeat this all over town, spreading fear wherever they go. They bring their spoils to Professor Strange and their boss. Strange notices that the young gangster looks suspiciously nervous, and Carstairs has his men tail the boy. The Dark Knight meets the boy at the spot and is immediately knocked out by Strange's thug. Batman wakes up. He's being held by several of Strange's guys, and Batman sees Strange again. They're reacquainted finally. Strange has one of his guys just knock Batman out. So Batman's down. Strange orders one of his men to attack Batman. So the guy knocks Batman upside the chin, and then Batman's trying to break free of the several men, but he takes a horrible beating. It's too much for him. Batman is down. They take his bruised body to a nearby room where he eventually slowly recuperates. Batman overhears Strange speaking to his men. Strange reveals that he's going to spread the fear dust all over the U.S. and become dictator of America. Batman waits some time for his strength to recover, and then he makes his presence known. The remaining men think that this will be easy, but Batman kicks their asses with ease. Batman calls Robin on the phone and tells him to take one of those pills. So Batman and Robin carry out their plan. Batman runs out to 42nd Street Station and attacks a group of gangsters about to spray their fear spray. Robin climbs up a power pole and walks across the line to access up a bridge to attack some of the gangsters who are working to distribute the fear spray. Later, Robin goes to a crowded city street by a theater and attacks some of Strange's goons about to spread the fear spray to the general public. Professor Strange is at his secret hangar and he's about to hop into his plane to get away when he's attacked by Batman. The two men have a bout. They end up fighting near a cliff. Batman gets the upper hand and punches Strange, wherein he falls off into the ocean, where he presumably dies. Batman vows to give the antidote pills to scientists so that they could spread it to the affected people by Strange's fear dust. Batman thanks the audience for reading Detective Comics. The end.
I like that last little panel where he's like telling you to read the comics. The whole idea of somebody spreading fear throughout the city with gas, and then like when they capture this so-called fear guy, there's still people infected, and then Batman has to pass on the antidote to somebody so they can spread it to the populace. That's Batman Begins.
As Batman Begins, you could easily take out Strange and make it
Yeah, Ra's al Ghul or the Scarecrow.
the Scarecrow. Yeah, Carstairs would be Ra's al Ghul in this instance.
That's true, yeah.
I had to stop myself from saying fear gas because it's fear dust.
Oh, yeah.
But
You wrote gas in a couple of the instances in
yeah,
the description. It's hard not to say that. It's
if
so
the dust
great.
turns into a gas, I'm sure upon
Yeah.
hitting water or something in the gun.
What separates dust from gas anyways? I mean, they're not liquid, they're not solid, they're in between.
No.
Yeah.
Strange, he was pretty menacing in this one. I think his plan probably would have worked if he just focused on Gotham and then to the whole US. Too greedy, too fast.
Yeah. I was kind of disappointed that when they fought and wrestled on the ground that Strange didn't take his shirt off or whatever again and like reveal how buff he is.
Yeah.
I always love when he's just like, "Oh yeah, you want to get down?" And then he just gets like really huge.
Yeah, so far him and Joker are like the two that'll like to get like really physical with Batman.
Yeah. I was missing that in this issue. That first page of the warehouse fight was great because every time Batman punches somebody, he's got a funny one-liner and they're like a pun about like what weapon that person's holding or how they're trying to take him down. I just thought it was really clever. It definitely feels like a Scarecrow precursor. I think we're starting to notice that a lot of these not so popular or one-time villains, or even like the recurring early villains, they are sowing the seeds of what will become a more iconic villain down the road.
Yeah, maybe they're like, oh, I want to do this again. Oh, but I killed it, that guy.
Yeah, so they look back at those old stories and they're like, oh yeah, that story worked really well. Let's just kind of like take elements of that and create a new villain.
I wonder when we'll next see Hugo Strange. I do think there's probably going to be a period dormancy. This might actually be the last time we see him for decades.
There definitely is. I think he shows back up again in like the 60s or 70s because he shows up when Roger Marshall takes over on Batman. So we'll see him again.
Yeah, he might have been intended to die here, but we'll see him in a few decades.
Didn't it feel kind of like with the previous issue that this issue was more in line with older Golden Age Batman stories? Like it could have been one like in the first year of his career?
Yeah, like it might have been actually one they planned and then decided, no, we have to put Robin in because Robin shows up very late in this issue.
Yeah.
He just kind of like phones. I wonder if he used the crotch phone.
Will he ever use it again?
Yeah.
Next time.
We don't explicitly see him pull it out of his crotch this time.
No.
Sadly.
Maybe that was a one-time thing.
Yeah.
I hope it was a one-time thing. Anyways, the artwork in this issue is incredible.
Yeah,
it has some of the best individual panels so far in any of the comic books that we've read. And again, like because it feels like older Batman stories, they're really dialing up the gothic horror elements in this, which I'm a huge fan of. I love horror and I love old gothic horror.
Yeah, I had to stop myself from like picking too many panels because
so many.
This was a banger.
Yeah, this is a great issue.
Yeah.
I would put this right up there, like visually, with like that first appearance of the Joker. Honestly, all the appearances of the Joker so far. The first issue of Clayface, I love that one, and the Mad Monk. Even though that one's not that well written or drawn, I just love the concept for that story.
Yeah, that issue is better than the sum of its parts. All right, let's get into the panels then. So our first one, did you pick this one?
Yeah, this is a three-parter. It's actually three sequential panels. The first panel, so this is the situation where Batman is like busting those thugs and then he sees the one thug who he's about to beat on and he realizes he's like a 17-year-old kid. So he's like grabbing him by the shoulder and pointing at his face really menacingly. And he's not looking happy. He's definitely like scowling right here. And he's like, "You're going to the meeting tonight. I'll meet you here tomorrow night at 12 sharp. And you're going to tell me all that went on, understand?" And then the kid's like, "Nope. Okay, if you say so, Batman." And then the next panel, it says, "With these parting words, the Batman flits away and merges with the protecting darkness." And then this is my favorite panel probably from the whole issue. It's just Batman doing the whole Dracula thing, covering his face. But then the background is just like this bright red, almost like somebody just hit the brakes on their car. And then Batman's shadow is kind of like growing up like really high behind him. Just looks really, really, really cool.
Yeah,
And then he's also like, remember tomorrow night. And then he just like disappears.
it's very melodramatic.
Yeah. And then the third panel in the sequence is the kid standing there in the dark. The only thing that's illuminating where he is the street lamp. And then he's like, gone. It's as if he disappeared into the shadows like a ghost. So cool. I love that.
And then you pick I definitely also picked
Yeah, we
the
both picked
one
this
where he's
one.
doing the Dracula pose.
We both picked this next panel here too, which is the one I think you picked this one as well, right? Where like all the goons are all going after him all at once.
I didn't, but I should have. That one's an excellent one.
It's so good. And you know what it reminds me of, because it just came out, is the Batman when he's in the room with all the cops and the cops are all just going after him, and
Yeah.
it's like, geez, how's he gonna get out of there? It's just so cool. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 thugs all going after him, and it looks like he's doing a pretty good job fighting them off. Obviously,
Yeah.
we know he doesn't.
He
but
probably would have beat them if it wasn't for the guy in the back with the
blackjack.
the blackjack.
Yeah, but he's got like one guy in a headlock. The other dude, he's like bashing with his elbow while that guy's trying to put him in a headlock. There's a guy grabbing onto his foot, and then he's not even punching a guy. He's just like holding his face with his hand and just like face palming him.
Pulling him away.
Yeah, it's such a good panel. And then I picked this one as well. It's just Batman picking a guy up into the air above his head, and then he says, picking the man up as if he were a child. Batman's been getting really strong in these couple issues. He's picking dudes up with one hand and throwing them. Like, so funny.
All right, let's skip over to the next one, my next one, because yours.
Yeah, you got all three.
Yeah.
This is another 3-part sequential sequence. I only put 2 of them in there, but Thomas put all 3.
Let's do the other 2 first, because that was like the end of the issue. So the next one I chose, it doesn't even feature Batman in it. It's showing the effects of the fear gas, and just got one guy in total shock, total fear. It's like a front-facing face, essentially, and he's surrounded by this like circle. It's like a representation of fear, I guess. Almost kind of think of like the Looney Tunes logo.
I was just gonna say that it's like the Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
logo.
just a little less whiter.
Yeah,
and then the words "fear" are like big bold lettering around him.
Yeah, it's like fear, fear,
Yeah.
fear.
It kind of reminds me of. It's very similar to something that Will Eisner would do. He was very good at blending the text and the and just playing with the medium. So this kind of feels a little bit like that, rather than just being showing just people and things in the graphics.
Even kind of the way that guy's face is drawn looks kind of reminiscent of Will Eisner comics.
Yeah, it's way more detailed than like a normal person's face have been so far in the Batman comics.
Except for that last issue. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good art in these couple issues.
And then after that, I chose this takes place during the moment where Batman's fighting all those guys, like where he's overwhelmed. And it's another circle. And inside, like in the center of the circle is a couple of guys beating Batman in the head. And then he's surrounded by just other instances of Batman getting like brutalized by the men.
The circle of violence.
Yeah, one of them. See, there's a gun being like whipped across his head. Another one's got a foot going up Batman's chin. Another one's just got a guy just punching straight in the chin.
It looks like one guy is hitting him with 2 blackjacks at the same time.
Yeah, that one. That one looks the silliest of all of them, but
yeah,
it's a cool sequence.
Yeah.
That has got to hurt, and you can understand why Batman was out for a long time. Any normal man would have been out for days, if not weeks, if they even lived.
I want to say that you're supposed to like look at it like clockwise, like bam, 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 all these things happening, and then the middle is just the moment he gets knocked unconscious, which is why it's like shattering from the middle.
Yeah,
it's cool. They're trying new things.
Yeah, that's very neat sequence. And then the final. Well, we got 2 more, but and then next one I picked was we both picked this one. It's the three panel sequence of Batman and Hugo Strange fighting by the hangar/cliff. The first one we got Hugo Strange. He's got like a hammer, and he's like trying to get Batman like on the shoulder, and then he's got Batman on the ground, and he's about to, and then somehow Batman and Hugo Strange both get up, and then it's a zoomed out silhouetted view of them, and Hugo is just about to fall off that cliff. It's a nice full moon with the fog.
Yeah,
very cool.
Is he going after him with like a steel sledgehammer?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, if it's what I think it is, those things are heavy.
I guess if it's, though Hugo doesn't look too, like in that first panel, he looks very, kind of a little scrawny.
Yeah, but they tend to do that. They
Yeah.
draw him with the jacket on, he looks scrawny, and then as soon as he takes the jacket off, he's, like, huge underneath.
And then the last panel we chose is the very last panel of the issue. It's where Batman is thanking the audience for reading Detective Comics.
You should read it how he says it, and then I'll read it by putting in our own stuff.
All right. Thanks for being with us again this month. Robin and I look forward to these little get-togethers with all you readers every month in Detective Comics. Let's make it a standing date.
Or, thanks for being with us again this week. Robin and I look forward to these little get-togethers with all of you listeners every week in Become a Bat. Let's make it a standing date. I'm totally going to Photoshop that, post it on Instagram. It's too good of a picture. All those ones where Batman's just talking directly to the audience, it's too good to not use.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else to end this with?
Let's just see what our next couple issues are going to be.
Oh, yeah. I haven't even looked into what we have next week.
We have Detective Comics number 47, Batman, Money Can't Buy Happiness. That's kind of a weird title. And then Batman number 3, story number 1, The Strange Case of the Diabolical Puppet Master, which has a pretty cool looking splash page because it's like a puppet master. He's got puppets of Batman and Robin on strings.
It's not about Metallica?
No.
No.
Or is it? Maybe Metallica read that comic book.
When they were, maybe their grandparents read this comic book.
Yeah,
Parents. Yeah.
They inherited it from someone and they were like, oh, that's a good title for an album.
Hey, you know that album title you were looking for?
Yeah.
Get a load of this.
Check it out, guys. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. And
Goodbye.
goodbye. All right. Bye.